It's the world famous Damien. Hey, Daz, thanks for joining us. Well, it is kind of like Game of Thrones, and, well, wait, it's nothing like Game of Thrones. Never mind. Hello, Shannon. Well, it looks like we're about 25 people right now. We'll just call that good enough and go have some fun here. So today, well, hello everybody, and welcome to Mission Control again here. In a nice, sunshiny but cold day here in Denver, Colorado. Hope it's nice wherever the heck you guys are. Today, on this little Friday edition of our training schedule, we're going to do locate the programmer, clear the attribute editor, and palettes. Kind of a lot, but everything doesn't take too long to get through on each one, so we'll be going through it relatively quickly. I also now have a Stream Deck, so we'll see if it keeps me from forgetting to switch better than uh, I've had in the past few days, where I forget to switch screens and switch to the right one. So to get started with, let's talk about locate. So locate in Titan is not necessarily like other. Actually, hang on here. All right, sorry, my computer went a little silly there, so now we're back. Sorry about that. So we'll talk about locate to start with. Locate is not like other consoles. Uh, locate opens the beam path, so it's going to take any gobos you've got, any uh, framing shutters, dimmers, colors, anything, and open it up so you got a clean open white dimmer path. It's also going to set your dimmer to full. It's again not like other consoles. Values are not put in the programmer. I'll try to get that into your heads as much as I can. When you locate something, it does not put in the programmer. Custom values can be set on locate, just like we saw yesterday with highlight and holo light values. We can set custom locate values, and we'll show that here in a little bit. We also have the offset to be able to fix ringing errors, like we talked about on the patching section. You can also do a locate mask. So let's switch over to our console view here and show a little bit of that stuff. So I got this show files a little silly at the moment. So let me, same one we were running yesterday. Let me take these fixtures and get them out of the way here. While we're back to the stage here. There we go. Just to get them out of the way. It goes back to the levels. So when we locate fixtures such as our VMFLs here, if we hit locate, we can see that our fixtures come on in open white, 50-50 pan and tilt, and their zoom's probably at about 50%, or focus is probably at about 50%, and our dimmer's at full. But say that maybe we had a wall of Sharpies, right? If we had a wall of Sharpies and the top fixtures were pointing down to the fixtures down below, then what's going to happen to those fixtures below? Well, they're going to melt. So maybe instead of having locate with the 50-50 pan and tilt, maybe you want them to locate with 45 degrees of tilt. So what we can do is we could go here and set our tilts values to say we'll do this, and we'll just get a little fancy with it, just to show it, to really show it, and we'll fan them out also. So say this is the values we now want to have every time we hit locate. So we can hit record, and then we hit the locate key, and then we've got individual fixture values. Or shared values. Individual fixture values means that if our fixtures had different values like they do because we fanned, it will store those. Or shared values, it'll take the first, in this case it would take the first fixture in the fixture order and use its values. We're going to use individual fixture values and then hit record. So now if I hit clear, I select these fixtures and I hit locate, it will move them off to somewhere else so we can make sure we see it. We'll do like that. So now if we hit clear, then select them and locate them, we see that they locate in that pan and tilt that we gave it a minute ago, so that we can have that instead. You can do colors and gobos if you really wanted to. I'm not sure why you want to have a gobo when you locate it, but if you wanted to, it is an option. And we'll just set that back to the defaults real quick. And we'll hit record, locate, and record again. So now when we select our fixtures and locate them, we see that it goes to the 50-50 pan and tilt like it did as before. We can also use locate mask. Let's say that I wanted to locate these fixtures. Let's see here. I'll go ahead and locate them and give them a color. And apparently we've got a long fade time still on here. Yeah, let's change that fade time down there. There we go there. And let's give them let's move our capture visualizer real quick here and give them a gobo and see the position and tilt them towards the wall so we can see it a little bit. There we go there. And move this back down here. Let's say I wanted to locate these fixtures, but keep the position in the same place where it's pointed here. So what I could do is I could hit I can press and hold locate or right click on the Titan 1 interface and then choose set mask. And I have it exclude gobo, so it includes everything else. We'll hit exit once and then press our locate key again. And you can see now that they went to 50-50 pan and tilt, but they did not change the gobo. If we tilt it out here again, see the color changed, but the gobo did not. So we excluded gobo from that locate. When you also do it, you can set it to, if you look at our options here on our soft keys, we can set the mask as we just did. We set the mask to exclude all, which means it wouldn't include anything. Set mask to locate all. Auto reset mask or remember mask to say that I always wanted it to keep the gobo whenever I hit locate. I could tell it to remember the mask and to remember whatever I did before. or auto reset. It'll automatically reset to including everything. Don't clear located attributes or clear located attributes. You may have noticed that in here, if I do it again and I hit locate after the fixtures are already up and we've done this, we hit locate, we see that the position, the color, and the gobo are still in the programmer. If I didn't want it to do that, I can change this setting here to clear located attributes. So when I do it, you see that now they have been cleared from the programmer, are no longer in our programmer, which we'll talk more about the programmer here in a minute. I think that's everything on locate that I was going to talk about. Any questions that I haven't missed yet? No, Shannon, sorry, I just muted you guys for a minute while I was sorting out an issue here. Hey, Safe, or I hope that's how I say your name correctly. So if we go back to our slides here, let's talk about the programmer. So the programmer in Titan is a virtual sandbox where we record from. Attributes are highlighted in blue when they are in the programmer. The blue arrow indicates the second level of wheels. As you see here in our example on screen, just past yellow, there's a little blue arrow pointing off to the side. That means that there's more wheels under that attribute, in this case color. So like this is probably made with BMFLs, and we'll show this here on the live screen in a minute. See that there's more than just cyan, magenta, and yellows. It's the color wheels and CTO and a couple other wheel options under colors for the BMFLs. And you can always tell that something's in the programmer if it has this blue highlight around it, as we see here. So let's go back to our mobile display, and let's go ahead and select our BMFLs and we'll throw a locate on them. If we go to our color attribute, and we see we've got the little blue arrow down here on the side here, where we've got color 1, color function, color 1 function, color 1, color macro. If we hit color again, we'll talk about that later. We see it's also got a second color wheel with this color function and CTO. We press color again, we get our cyan, magenta, and yellow, and then we hit it again and we loop back around. You get that same thing on Gobo more than likely with these fixtures. For some reason the blue arrow's not appearing, but it should be. It may be a little funky little something with the personality, I'm guessing. If we go intensity, you can see that there's not more intensity, there's just dimmer and shutter. There's nothing else to go to. Same thing with position. If we go to special in this, we see it's got a bunch. It does on effect also. But you get the idea here. Now we'll see again, notice how nothing is highlighted in blue because we have nothing in our programmer, because all we've done is locate our fixtures, and again, locate puts nothing in the programmer. So if we were to go ahead and take our dimmer and we'll just spin the wheel up, you see now that it's highlighted in blue, as well as our eye intensity attribute is shown that it has intensity in it. So if we go to Gobo, we still know that we still have an intensity attribute in the programmer currently. And we can go to Gobo and we'll change it to, we'll change it to this Gobo. And then we'll go to beam, and let's zoom these bad boys up. And then let's go to position, and let's tilt them and point at the wall. So we see now that we've got all of these attributes in our programmer. So if we were to record from here, it would store, we could use our different record modes to show how, to control how the console is going to record our playbacks from this point. Thanks, Jay. I hadn't heard that one yet. Generally, I haven't noticed it being too much of a problem, but well, sometimes funkiness happens. The devs try their hardest, but you know, there's days. So any questions on the programmer up through there? It's kind of the basics of it. There's not a whole lot to talk about other than from there. We'll talk about different record modes and why that matters in another session. But let's talk about HTTP and LTP. 1 second. All right, sorry about that. HTTP and LTP, all control channels are handled in one of two layers in Titan. Dimmer or intensity channels can work on the principle of HTTP, which is highest takes precedence. If an HTTP channel is active at different levels and different queues, the highest level will be output. So when you fade out a queue, the HTTP channels will fade out with it. All other channels work on the principle of latest takes precedence. The latest change takes over from any other value, so the most recent queue that you turned on is the one which is output. When you fade out in a queue, and LTP channels retain their original values until you change by another queue. So basically, HTP, highest takes precedence. So the only thing that can be HTP in Titan is dimmer. So that if we have a playback running at 50% and we fire a second playback that goes to 100%, our fixtures are going to go to 100% dimmer. But if we drop our 100%, it's going to stay at 50. They'll stay at 50% at that point because we still have our 50% playback firing because it's now the highest running. If we have a playback that's running at 100% dimmer and we fire one that has them running down to 50%, they're still going to stay at 100 because the highest takes precedence. If that doesn't make sense, post a question. We'll try to get it fixed. Hello, Mr. Brad. Latest takes precedence. So the latest takes precedence, just like it sounds, means the last thing you told the fixtures to do, they're going to do forever and ever until you tell them to do something else. So if I take my LTP channel, which say Gobo, for instance, if I put my fixtures in Gobo 1, they're going to stay in Gobo 1 forever and ever until I tell them to do something else, whether it's I locate them, I fire another playback that changes them to Gobo 3, something along those lines. I have to send a change to them, or they will stay on that Gobo or color or position or anything else that's LTP forever and ever until you tell them different. I hope that makes sense. If anyone has any questions on that, feel free to ask them. So with that, let's talk about the attribute editor. I needed a sip of my root beer. So the attribute editor is a great way to control fixtures. For Titan, it has quite a few nifty little features. We'll go through some of them here. Okay, for programming, has a color picker with gel picker with Lee, Gam, and Roscoe gels. Can adjust hue, saturation, intensity, hue and HIS or SSI or HSI, RGB and CMY of color mixing fixtures. Just individual color channels of the fixture of your selected fixtures. Has dimmer position control windows. Go picker with images. Blade mapping for shutter fixtures. That's useful with media servers. You press the open/view key and then open workspace window and then attribute editor to show it, or you can choose it from your workspaces that come pre-built in any show file of Titan, like over here. We have attribute editor. You can also open the attribute editor by clicking in the area in between the wheels and where it's displayed. So here, where it has pen and tilt, if we click on this, we can see that it opens up the attribute editor. No matter what attribute I could be on, if I was on color and then clicked in this area, it would bring up the attribute editor. So it's a nice quick way to be able to bring it up. But here, let's make it full screen for now, and we'll go through all of our stuff. Actually, let's go back to our slides for a moment. Actually, let's go back to here. So if we go to our color mix attribute editor, and actually let's make this size just so we can see our fixtures, and we'll locate them. If we drag our fixture, we drag around in here for a color picker. You can see that it changes our colors. It also shows us the RGB, CMY, and HSI values, or we can adjust it using the sliders over here, or here. Or here. We can also go click picker on the top here. This is going to be the old school Avolites color picker. If you've been around for a while, remember this. We click on the channel one here. We can see the actual channels that are in our fixtures. In this instance, we have BMFLs. The color mixing is CMY, so giant magenta yellow. And lastly, we have filters. In here, you can narrow it down by either Lee, Roscoe, or GAM. And just pick the color and have your fixtures mixed towards it. One thing I always like to say about color pickers is this is all done on math. It's not done by, it's not like we took it took everyone, we took every kind of fixtures. We took a BMFL and set up next to a par can and tried running it until and try to make it match that gel color. It's done that these CMY values should get this color. So that's going to be a difference, sometimes between the when the manufacturer, who makes the fixture, when it was manufactured, how good the lamp is, if it's an arc lamp style fixture, how new or how old the lamp is. So there's going to be variations in there. So don't just think it's going to look perfectly rose pink O2 just because you click that. You may need to modify it from there, but it's going to get you fairly close most of the time. I just like to point that out to everybody. It's not a super magic button. It's a get you doggone close button. And from there, let's see here. The other things I like to show in here. So let's go. Let's locate our fixtures and let's get them in position. Let's tilt them towards the wall a little bit here. And we can see, actually, we'll just do our positions over here. We can also drag our fixtures around in our position window here to control where they go. You can take them straight to their locate values. We can use flips, so how with the moving head you can do, pointing towards the back wall, and it'll basically flip which way is doing to point the same direction. See, my fixtures basically do a 180 on tilt, or on pan, and almost a 180 on tilt, so you get flip it the opposite direction. I hope that makes sense. Align, we can align them to other fixtures if we'd separated them out any. I can also get the fan quickly here, so I can click on pan and have it fan my pan out. Or I can have it do both at the same time. It's going to get some kind of funky going on here. You see if I mess with it there, I can get them fanning out. I also have to lock pan and tilt, so I wanted to just lock the pan out so I can only tilt the fixtures, so I can't pan them. Or vice versa, I can lock the tilt and only pan them and not tilt them when using this. Fine adjustment or gross adjustment, basically, so you can move the fixtures in smaller increments while dragging it in here, which is helpful sometimes when you're using big fat fingers like mine. It's nice to be able to have it to turn it down. Let's go up to intensity and shutter. In here we can see we control our intensity of our fixture, turning it up or down. You can take it straight to full or straight to 0 or plus and minus 5% increments, or take it straight to the locate value. As well as there are different shutter values here. We can close our shutters, open our shutters, take them to a strobe, and we click and drag across it. We can use a little slider there to change it there. Put it back to open. See here, we'll skip on down to Gobo 1. We can see here that it shows our gobos with an image of those gobos. So if we were to click on this gobo, that is the gobo we would get out of our fixtures. This is done with through the capture component, so you can't put custom gobo images in here, unfortunately. Not how that works on the internal capture. You can do it in the full version of capture, but just not with capture component. Just hits back to open. Iris and zoom, same as we saw before. The other one I like to show is the blades. Let's make this full screen so it's not all blongy, funky looking here. So what I can do here is I can adjust my shutter blades by dragging them in and out, and control how control my blades in here. Super handy if you have a fixture with framing shutters. Be able to control it right there. Let's make it small again so we can see that it's done that to my fixtures, and I can just drag stuff in and out and frame it as need be. And I just click the straighten button, will straighten whichever one I have currently connected, or I can just reset the whole thing. I think we can also rotate them on here. Yeah, so I can rotate the whole shutter assembly, or reset it all back to normal. So let's pause for a quick moment and see if we have any questions. Yes, Sam's right. We can search through the filters now. I forgot about pointing that out. So we go to our color mixing filters. We can see we can type it in here. We can bring up the keyboard. We can type in a keyboard 120 and we see we get the Lee 120 or the GAM 120, which are completely different colors. And we'll just locate our features for now. Oops, what those are pretty much the ones that I like to cover in the attribute editor. Of course, we can't get to any attribute, but those are the fun ones to show off. Hey, Cody. Hey, Corey. Thanks for joining us. It's the famous Mr. Cully. So, if we don't have any questions on the attribute editor, I know there's not a whole lot to talk about on it, but let's talk about them. Let's talk about palettes for a little bit here. And hello, Carlos. So, palettes are useful for programming and busking, faster of updating shows while touring, updating of a palette cascades through the whole show in any playback they are used in. The three types of palettes in Titan: a global, shared, and normal. A global palette stores one piece of information which is applied across all fixtures, so as long as they possess the attribute within the palette, i.e. color or pan and tilt. This allows global palettes to be imported between shows. Reducing programming time, we can actually import any kind of palette, but we'll talk about that on another stream. So global palette, just like it sounds, anything that can change it can will. So if we had a global palette that was red, any fixture that can go red would go red. Next type is shared palette. A shared palette stores one set of values and applies them to all fixtures of the same type. It will apply to extra fixtures of the same type, which are added later, but not to other fixture types. So we had the exact in the same example, we had a red palette that was for our BMFLs, and it was set up as shared. Any BMFLs would go red when we tapped that palette, and any BMFLs that we patched later would also be able to go red by using that palette, but our LED fixtures would not, for example. The last type we have is normal. A normal palette stores a discrete value for each fixture. If all fixtures are to point to one spot, they must have individual pan and tilt values, for example. So if we're trying to point all the fixtures at center stage, obviously their pan and tilt values would be different for them to point at center stage. So that would be a normal palette. Or say that we only selected our odd BMFLs and recorded them in that red normal palette. Only our odd BMFLs would turn red in said palette. I hope that makes sense to everyone. If not, speak up and we will try to answer the question more clearly. When creating palettes, when quick recording palettes, each window will record the information differently. Color saves only color information. Will always save all color channels of the fixtures in the program, regardless of what you've touched. Position saves only position information, and will always save pan and tilt for the fixtures in the program, regardless of whether you've changed one or both. Gobos and beams will only save channels you've changed in the programmer from the remaining channels, so it ignores color and position values, but can include dimmer, shutter, gobo, zoom, focus, iris, so on and so forth. So quick recording palette is just when we double tap an empty box in our palettes window. So let's go ahead and show doing that real quick. So slide on over here to our Titan 1 interface. So go ahead and hit clear just to make sure we got nothing funky going on. We'll go ahead and select our BMFLs and throw a locate on them. And since our attribute editor's open here with colors, we'll just, it looks like it looks pretty today. We'll use this bright pink. So now I've got that. If I just double tap an empty box in my colors window, we'll see that it makes a color palette for that. And it used, it recorded all the color channels. So even though we only have cyan, magenta, and yellow in, it recorded, if we view the palette, we see what information is in there. We can see that it stored all the color palette, all the values for all of the color wheels, even though we didn't have them in the programmer at the time. We looked at the color, we can see that we only have, say, magenta and yellow in there. But it recorded all the color channels. So if we had one of our other color, like if we did this, put So we put this deep blue in here. Our figures look different, but if we tap this palette, it kicks out that deep blue and brings us back to just our bright pink that we had put in on purpose. Same thing with position windows. We'll go and close our attribute editor to get it out of the way. We'll go and select our fixtures. We'll hit locate, and we'll throw a color in it. And then we'll, let's see, here's our position. We'll put some tilt on them. Keep a little bit of fan in there because that's always a good time. And we'll talk about fan on Monday, I believe. We got a little bit of fan going on there. So that what we can do here is now if we double tap an empty box in our positions window, we can see that we now have a palette, just called palette 54. But if we were to clear that palette, or clear our programmer, hit locate, or select our figures, hit locate, and tap that palette, see that it only did position and it didn't do color, even though we had color in the programmer at the time. Again, that's because we did the quick record and just double tapped a empty box in our positions window. Let's go ahead and move our capture window over to get it out of the way. Here. And we'll hit clear. And we'll select our BMFLs again, hit locate, and throw some tilt and throw them at the back wall just so we can see it. Then we'll go to our gobo attribute and we'll go to gobo 1, for example. Now if we tapped an empty box in our gobos window, we can see that it automatically put the image of the gobo that we saw in the attribute editor and made that our icon or our legend for Titan. Kind of nifty, we can just change gobo and do it again. Change it, do it again, and we see that it has, if we view the palette like we just did a minute ago, you see that it just has the gobo information in it because the gobos and beams window is only going to record the channels that you changed that are in the program but that are not position or color channels. So that if we wanted to, say if we put intensity in the programmer, so we'll put intensity in here, and we'll do a strobe to make it real obvious. And now we'll double tap an empty box here, and then hit exit and clear, and select our BMFLs, and tap locate. Now when we fire this palette, see that it takes it and has puts the gobo in and has the strobing in it. So we point it back at the wall there, just so you can see that gobo is there. See that it recorded the gobo and the intensity and the dimmer and the shutter, so we can see that it actually put all that in the programmer because they have been highlighted in blue, so we know they're actually in the programmer right now. Now that's doing quick recording. We can put anything in any palette that we want. We just have to do what I refer to as the long record method. So say that we wanted to, we'll select our BMFLs and we'll throw a locate on them, and we'll use our position palette here. And we'll open capture. And we'll throw this gobo on it and this color in it. And say I wanted all of those, so I wanted the position, the gobo, and the color to all be in one palette, which is fine. I just have to hit the palette button, and then I can hit record palette here or here. And then I can go through, I can set its user number, I can provide a legend, I can set what palette type I want it to be, whether I want it to be normal, global, or shared. In this case, because the pan and tilt values, when I want it to be normal, I can set the masks to include and exclude things. So say I didn't actually want position in here, I could exclude it or include it back in. I can record by mixed, record by channel and programmer, record by group and programmer, record by group and mask, and clip back to mixed. Let me see here, I've got a slide with all that, the explanation of those in them. We'll do that real quick, and then we'll go back to actually finish recording it. Record by this allows you to control how the mask is used when saving the palette. The options are channel and programmer records only channels which are in the programmer, the ones you've changed. Group and programmer records all channels in the attribute group which has one or more channels in the programmer. For example, if cyan is the programmer, all the colored channels will be recorded even if they are not in the programmer. Group and mask records everything which is included by the mask. Set the attribute buttons mixed records attributes group button for position and color, but only by channel for other controls. So kind of just like the color channels, it does all the color channels. The position window does pan and tilt. This will, with mixed, will do pan and tilt and all the color channels, so I'll get the actual color that I wanted and the pan and tilt values that I was actually after. So we were happy that we record by mixed. If we hit next, and we go back to our mobile screen, we can see we can hit store, update our offset, we'll talk about in a little while. Record nested palettes enabled or disabled. We'll talk about nested palettes in a minute. We'll zoom back around, and now we just tap and we tap in a box in our palettes window. So if you hit clear, you may have noticed on the on all the palette buttons here, we'll make this window large, and we'll make our buttons. Oops. Make our buttons sillily large, just to make it easy to see. We can see that all of our other colors, all of our other palettes in this color window has the IPC, G, B, E, S, and FX. I is obviously intensity, attributes, P is position, color, gobo, beam, effects, special, and FX would be shapes. You can see that all of our other ones only have color in it. The one we just recorded has position, color, and gobo, even though it's in the colors window. Again, that's because when we do the long record method, we can put anything in any palette in any window that we wish. We just have to do the longer method to record it. So if we were to make this less comically large, here buttons back to a different reasonable size, and we were to locate our BMFLs and then tap our palette 59 button, we can see that we get the color, the position, and the gobo all out of the fixtures at once. Are you going to be explaining position stacking and fade times? I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that, Mike. So can you try expanding on your questions? I'm not sure what you mean. Wait a minute, things catch up. Apparently, Mike either it's not showing it to me, or Mike has not been able to answer yet. So we'll continue on. Continuing on. Oh wait, there he is. Do you mean make a playback or cue list, Mike? Corey, yeah, we can go over that one more time and we bring the slide back up. So a mixed records the attribute group for position and color, but only channel for other channels. So i.e., if anything color with mixed, so your cyan, magenta, yellow, your color wheels 1 and 2 in the BMFL case here, our color wheels 1 and 2 are cyan, magenta, and yellow. It's going to put all of those in the palette, and it's going to put, even if we only have like in here we only have actually here, let's clear it out. We'll show it again, so we'll locate it, and we'll put this in here. And we got our colors. We only have cyan, magenta, and yellow actually in the programmer, right? And we'll move this up here to get out of the way, and then we'll do that and this. So now that if I record a palette, so record palette, or I do a palette record, either or. I shall have it record by mixed, and then we'll do it right here, and we'll clear it. Now if we view this, or we actually will fire it back first, we'll locate and fire it back. And even though we only had cyan, magenta, and yellow in the programmer, it put in our color wheels 1 and 2 and our CTO in that palette. Does that make more sense now? Yarg! Did it again. Forgot to change it. I get so happy switching back and forth, and I don't always switch. Someday I'll get better. Someday I'll get better about it. So let's just do that part again. So if we take our fixtures and select them and locate them, and we'll put this down over here and select our color, and then we'll put it up with the colors window to get out of the way, and then we'll select, we'll do that as a position, and we'll throw also a Gobo in there for giggles. Actually, let's do open. And so now if we do palette and record, oops, we can set it to, we'll leave it at global, that's fine. See, it's record by mix. Now if we look at our programmer, we see that we only have a cyan, magenta, and yellow in there, yes? But now if we record this palette here, and we hit clear, and select our fixtures, locate them, and tap this palette, we go through our colors, we see that it has all the colors in there instead of just the cyan, magenta, and yellow. So it records the entire group of channels, not just the cyan, magenta, and yellow. Does that make more sense now, Corey? Thank you. Sorry that I just, someday I will get better at this, boys. I promise. I promise. So let's go back to some slides here, and let me figure out where we want to go here. Let's talk about updating palettes. You can edit palettes similar to how we edited groups. The best way to update a palette is first play back the palette so you can see what the palette currently looks like. And once you've done this, you can make changes to the palette. For example, if you accidentally recorded fixed index rather than fixed spin into a Gobo palette, so you can then deselect fixed index and instead select fixed spin to update the palette. Press record and double click the palette. This is what we call a quick merge, where the console will only update information that already exists in the palette. The console will ignore information, other information, so you don't accidentally record them into your palette. So to example that, let's do this, put this down here, and clear, select the fixtures, throw a locate on them, and we'll tilt them out some, and we'll fire, let's choose this palette, and we'll say that's just not the color we meant it to be. So now if we hit, we go to our cyan, magenta, and yellow, and let's see here, let's get a little more, what do we want it to look like? I want it to be more like that. So with that, I can then hit record and then double tap the same palette and then hit clear. If we look and see it only has color in it, it did not put position in there because we had only had color in it before, so it only kept color in it now. So we reselect the pictures, locate them, and tap our palette there and see that it only has the blue in it. Kind of handy that it does that for you, so you don't have to worry about it. You can also edit palette. Actually, we'll talk about that in a little while. And I did it again, didn't I? Dang it. I'm done yelling at myself. Let's try that again. So if we select our PMFLs and we throw a locate on them and we throw some tilt on them for giggles, and we fire this palette here. Actually, that palette sucks. Let's try this one. Or this one. There we go. We'll go with that one. We'll say that's not quite the color we want it to be. We go to our color, the rest I am magenta yellow, and we'll adjust some of this out. Maybe a little more green looking, a little bit. Maybe right about there is more what we meant it to be. So then we can hit record and double tap on the palette. And then we can see that if we hit clear, only the color information that updated did not put the position information in because it was only a quick update or a quick merge, so it knew not to put the position information in, so we hit locate and tap our palette, you see it does not have position in it. So since we skipped over it a little bit, let's talk about unwanted attributes. We use off to remove them from palettes in the palette view. So let's show that. We use our palettes that we made earlier with multiple informations in them. So say that this one here, we didn't mean to have, yeah, we'll do this one. We didn't mean to have color information. We'll go with that. We'll go with color. So what I do here is I can use view and then tap the palette. And then I can see everything that's contained in that palette. So if I wanted to turn off color, I simply select, color would probably silly one to pick here. I can simply select the column and then for my soft keys choose off. Clear. Okay, view. Now we'll do view this palette. Pick our red, green, and blue. Select all our color channels. That's why it's silly on me. What I wanted. And then choose off. And now if we fire that palette. Now, apparently the view is not updating correctly, but it did actually turn the values off. I'm not sure why it's not updating correctly. Interesting. I'll have to investigate that one. We use off to remove the color from it. If we hit clear, we look at our, let's see, it didn't do it. Let's just record a new palette that doesn't fight me. So let's go ahead and hit our fixtures, hit locate, and we'll give them a color and a gobo here. And then we'll hit record, palette, and we'll put it here. Say we didn't mean to have gobo in that palette, so we select our fixtures, hit locate, and see that it does have the gobo in it. We do view here. We go to our gobo and set it to off. You see this says off here. Now if I close this, we see that the really. Well, the G from here should disappear, but it obviously has not. I'm not sure why. May have found a little bug, but we see it does not actually play back the gobo. It only does the color now. So any questions up to that point? I know that got a little messed up with finding a little hiccup in the interface there. But if not, let's talk about nested palettes. So palettes contain references from other palettes. For example, an odd even color palette could be created using two other color channels. If you wanted to change the colors, change the master color palettes would also change the odd even colors. The record don't record nested palettes option in the palette record menu sets whether nested palettes recorded, which is the default, or whether the attribute value is recorded instead. When palettes are using cues, you can disable the nested palettes when using the playback option. Fire, don't fire nested palettes. They said that don't fire, the nested palettes are treated as the fixed values they were held at the time the cue was recorded. They won't change if the nested palette is updated. So say we're doing a corpo show and we've taken their company colors of red, green, blue just to make my life easy. And we've made a few different color palettes. And actually we'll just do that here. Let's go select our BMFLs. We'll hit locate. We'll hit our odd, even, all button like we saw yesterday. We'll do 1 in 4, and we'll make them red. We'll hit our fixture plus button. We'll make them green. We'll hit our fixture plus button and make it blue. And hit another time and make those also blue. And now we'll record a color palette there. Then we'll hit clear, do the same thing. 4, and we'll do blue. And the fixture plus button, we'll do red. And the fixture plus button, we'll do green. At the same time, green. And record another palette. So let's say we've gone and done this a whole bunch of different fixtures, and got it. That's what you get. So say we've gone through and made a whole bunch of different color palettes like these two I just made here, and I'm going to delete them and do it again. It's Friday, right, folks? We'll go with that. So we'll select our BMFLs. We'll hit locate. We'll use our odd, even, all button. Hit our 1 in X and choose 1 in 4. Then we'll make the first ones red. Hit the fixture plus button. Make it green. Hit the fixture plus 1 button. Make it blue. We'll hit it again. And also make those ones blue. And then we'll record a palette. Click clear. Select them again. Locate. Odd, even, all. 1 in 4. We'll make the first ones green. Fixture plus button. And blue, fixture plus button, red, again, red, record another palette. So we'll hit clear. So there we've done this with a whole bunch of different fixtures, and so we've got a whole bunch of these colors palettes made, so that when we select our fixtures, locate them, and go to the different colors depending on where we want them in the show, right? And their marketing guy comes in and goes, "That's not the right red." Well, rather than having to go through and change, maybe more than just these 2 palettes, maybe we've got 20 of them because they got a lot of fixtures and a lot of uplights or something like that, right? So what I do since they were just nested palettes, I can change the master red and change the red in all of them. So if I fire back this red palette and then go to my color attribute, and we'll make it strikingly different. We'll make it magenta instead of red. And then you hit record and double tap the palette. So now we completely changed this red to magenta rather than where it was before. So we can go and hit clear, select it, select the pictures, and hit locate and fire this. Now we see it makes it magenta. Now if we go to fire our 2 palettes we made from the nested palettes, we see that they are now also magenta instead of red, so that we don't have to go through and change those those 20 other palettes, let's say, we made, right? I also find it, I use it a lot for color palettes like this. I also use it for position palettes. So when I've got a busking show file, I usually do most of my busking is going to be with positions. Let's say I'm going to have a lead singer, left guitar, right guitar, drum kit, a fan in, and a fan out. Keyboards, if you got keyboards, and steel guitar if you got steel guitar, because it's a country act. So what I'll do is I'll set up different looks with some of my lights pointing at the lead singer, some of them pointing at each guitar, some of them pointing at the drum kit, some of them at the the steel guitar, and the keyboards, and then record that at position. And so we'll record all these different looks from those base positions, so that if they come up, they move the mic stand 2 feet to the left on me right before show starts. I only have to update the lead singer's palette, and it fixes all my other palettes in the show file without me having to go through and recreate 20 looks and sit there and adjust the lead singer's mic position in 20 looks. I've only got to do it in 1 palette. Does that make sense to everybody? it's labeled all on the mobile. Or, sorry, not view, open. Open. It's labeled open. Now, it's my bad for not saying open/view. On some consoles, it's labeled open, some it's labeled view, some it's even labeled open/view. Thanks, Sam. Yeah, may have been the global thing. It's trying to go things too fast. It's actually not open window, Jay. If you look at it, it says open and close. The next line is window control. So it's not open window, it's open, close, window control. So let's talk about palette timing, type of time, and then a palette, and we'll fade in over that time. We saw that some yesterday. So if I am to bring up our capture window again, if I type a time like 5 here and then tap our orange palette, we see that our fixtures fade to amber, or rather than orange, I should say that properly. They fade to it in that time. This works with anything that's not an instant palette, so it's not going to work on gobos. So if we type 5 and hit our gobo, it's still going to snap to it right away because gobos can't fade. If we do it with position, same thing. We type 5 and then hit our position palette here. You'll see that our fixtures fade in to that position. Now, here's one thing that I didn't show you guys yesterday. It would be kind of fun. We'll set our master over time to 5. So if we go to our hit our palette button, set our master time to 5, and our master overlap at 50. So we talked about overlap yesterday. If I tap 1, you see that it starts fading in. Actually, let's pick a different group. Let's do clear, and let's select this group and hit rotate. This is where stuff can be kind of fun here. With some tilt on it. Now, if I, since I have the master time in there, instead of having to type of time every time, it's going to do it in a 5-second fade with 50% overlap. If you don't remember what overlap is, check back on yesterday's video and you can see more of it. But if we tap our amber palette, we see that our fixture is going to fade in over that time. Well, here's what's fun is if you have a long fade time in it. So we'll do this one and get through the first ones. I tap this red palette. See that it starts doing in the second palette's fade in before the first one's even done. And you can get silly with it. And type fast and click fast. You can actually do some kind of cool looking things with the color. You can also do that with, let's actually point these back to the back wall to show this a little bit. I didn't change the stupid stream deck. Doggone it, man. I think this is making it worse, boys. I think it's the way that they've changed the. This is the way they changed the screen here in Facebook is making it worse for me. I'm going to try it like this. So this might make it a little easier here for me. Let me do this. All right, there. Now I can see myself a little bit better on the live. There's some funkiness in the way that it's done now. So let me try this again like this. So let's see here. We're going to go ahead and hit clear. And so again, we go to our palette time here. If we, actually here we'll start from scratch. Let's do sort of master time to 0. Enter, hit exit. All right, so now if we select our BMFLs and we throw a locate so we can see them, if we type a time like 5 and then tap a color palette like our amber one here, we can see that it fades in over 5 seconds. If I type 5 again and then tap my cyan palette here, it will change to that in 5 seconds. So you always just type, I can do that with any palette, it doesn't have to just be color. If I change it here, get this out of the way, if I type a time like 5, then hit this position palette, We can see that it fades in over 5 seconds. An instant palette, such as a gobo, even if we type a time and then hit our gobo one here, see that it changes instantly because you can't fade a gobo. What else? Let's see here. Since I got myself all lost and frustrated now, let's see if I can get back on track. If we select our pictures again and we hit locate so we can see them, if we set our master palette time, so either hit palette button here and change it, or use the macros like we saw yesterday, and we'll set a master time of 5, and we'll leave our overlap at 50. Again, if you didn't catch yesterday's video, go back and watch it to learn about time and overlap palettes, and show that here. So now if I tap any palette, it's going to fade in 5 seconds, and with a overlap of 50. Actually, let's select a different group because this is more fun with this group. Locate. I'm going to throw a tilt just to throw it back at the back wall a little bit here. Show how much fun this can be. So now if we tap our red palette, or it's actually magenta palette, since we change it to, we can see that it fades in. What's fun is if you click a new one before the last one's done, it'll actually start fading in the new one also. So you can get some kind of funky color stuff going at the same time. Not only colors, we can get some fun stuff going with gobos too. No colors, so you can see them a little better as we do that. We can also do it with zoom. So sometimes when you're busking with palettes, it can be a nifty little way to get some kind of cool stuff going without entirely too much work. Do a little iris chase there. So that's kind of a fun little thing to do with fixture overlap and palettes and palette timing. So I like to show that one. So if you press the palette button when no fixtures are selected, the palette will be set to all the fixtures which the palette applies to. We call this a quick palette. For example, if you've got some color palettes programmed for your BMFLs, pressing one of the palettes with no BMFLs are selected will set the color to all BMFLs. Effects palettes can't be recalled as quick palettes, and we'll get into effects palettes when we get to the shape generator next week, I believe. Global palettes will affect all figures they contain the information for. So if we fired a quick palette, which is basically what if we hit clear here, and we'll select our BMFLs and we'll locate on them, and we'll put some tilt on them and point them at the back wall here. Now I'm just going to record a playback real quick so we can have our intensity in it. So we'll see that I don't have any fixtures selected right now, but if I tap this red palette, my fixtures still go magenta or cyan or whatever I have before, because it's doing the fixture overlap in them also. And we can just turn that off for right now. Overlap back to 100. And see that it fades in our fixtures on that as we go. If we had, since those are global palettes, any fixtures we have that would be up would go red. Like so, you just look at these back in here. So let's hit locate, see those bad boys back there, and we'll record here, merge it. We'll get the playbacks next week. If I tap the red palette here, we can see that all the fixtures go red, even the LED buttons in the back there. Because magenta for our BMFL, since that's what we updated it to, but our buttons in the back go red. But if I were to refire this playback so everything goes back to no color, I fire this one, which we know which you see is a normal palette, so it only has the BMFLs in it. We'll see that our LED buttons in the back stay no color because the normal palette contained no information for them. Does that make sense to everyone? I do it again. Oh, golly. I give up. I quit today. It's Friday. Thanks, Rich. Oh, golly gee willikers. So, I'm going to hit clear here, and I got to figure out how far back we went. So to show quick palettes, so we see that even though I have no fixtures selected, my fixtures are up because I recorded in no playback here. I tap this red palette. Everything that is recorded in that palette, it works. In this case, our BMFLs, which have magenta and our LED buttons in the back are staying red because they didn't get updated in their color any. Same thing if we hit the yellow one here, we get the same. But however, we hit one of these two that we recorded earlier, and actually here we'll do this first. We'll flash it, and now we'll tap this one. We'll see that the LED buttons in the back stay no color because they are not recorded in these palettes. This is a normal palette and only contained the BMFLs and not the LED buttons. Does that make sense now that we can see it? I know I want to cry too, Sam. It's Friday, boys. It's Friday. I apparently need a drink or 10. Either that or maybe just not do any more slides for today, which actually that was the last slide of the day anyways. So any questions on the stumble mess that fest that today has been for me? I apologize profusely. Apparently I need to get more sips. Yes, more sips of whiskey. Yes, and lots of it. Ron, is there a way to save that busk to a fader, record by stage? What exactly? Unfortunately, because we're a little bit behind. Record what to a fader? While I wait for Ron to re-ask that, Mark Matthews, what is busking? Busking is generally what we refer to as running a show without actually recording everything into playbacks. You're just kind of going with the flow and tapping palettes and stuff, and just kind of just doing it on the fly, so to speak. That's the way I've always explained busking. Sam, what's your explanation for busking? I know his will be all nice and proper and cool. No, you couldn't save it to a fader like that per se, Ron. What you'd have to do uh, is record a cue list and with fixture overlap in it, and as you go through each one, you would just have it have your set your. How would I do that exactly? I can do it with a chase. I can do it with a cue list. You could record it. We couldn't just record it just easily. Uh, oh, Steven, don't start that game. People will die. No, I don't want to. I want you guys to die. But yeah, Ron, to do that, I could do it with a cue list or a chase, but not just record it straight up as I was just doing it live there. Unfortunately, at this time, Titan does not have a timeline, but hopefully at some point it will. Maybe instead of having you guys drink, I drink every time I miss the screen. No, then I'll die. So, unless you guys have any more questions, I'm going to run away from this Bumble Fuss Fest that it has been. So, any other questions? See, I told you guys that Sam's explanation would be nice and beautiful. See, look at that stuff right there. And with that, gentlemen, and hopefully some ladies out there somewhere, we will call it a day, and I will see you guys on Monday when we will do, let me double check on this. On Monday, we will be doing a line, fan, and a bit more on off than we did today. So hope to see you guys all again on Monday, and have a great weekend. If you guys push me in the programmer and users group, tomorrow maybe we'll do a pure Q&A, just a free form. You guys ask questions, and I'll poke at stuff on the console and try to answer said questions. So if you guys, I'll throw up a poll, and you guys can vote up on it and get enough votes. I'll hop on tomorrow, and we can do a free form. Just throw questions at me, and I'll try and answer them. So with that, I hope you all have a great day, a great rest of your day or evening, wherever you're at, and have a great weekend, and see you guys on Monday. Thanks, and bye.